DAW Wars, fight!
It sounds like Star Wars, like DAW Wars.
No.
Return of the Saw Wave.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking synth. Yeah, Return of the Tracks or something stupid.
So, John Audio, what is the best DAW?
Ooh, I love these ones. It's so controversial.
You got to start
a
fight. You got to start out with a couple jabs, right? It's like, okay,
absolutely.
What's the best DAW? Like, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Right, but I think first off, I do want. There's always this funny thing I see that pops up every so often. There's some posts and some people will say this DAW sounds the best, and like that starts so many fights inside threads and conversations, and with good respect too, because like the summing engines are all the same, right? So there's a super interesting video. I do want to link it down here at the bottom, and it's Mick Gordon talking about that, and he went so deep into why people think DAWs sound different. And he's like, at the end of the day, the summing algorithm is all the same. It sums sound waves together. Like that should be standard. They all sound the same. But, you know, some people will say, for example, oh, FL hits hard for some reason, and they don't think, and they look at the master channel. Oh, there's a limiter on there. Maybe that changes the sound, right? So maybe that's why you think it sounds better, or like these hit harder, whatever it is. But there are differences in, for example, different plugins. Like if you use like the default Ableton plugin versus like the default FL plugin or the EQ, they're going to sound different. They're going to do different things to the sound because it's a different plugin. Like that is where you can maybe say, okay, maybe this DAW sounds different because their stock compressors are different, their stock EQs are different. But if you're doing like a null test, it should absolutely be zero. It should be the exact same. There's
huge differences, right? I mean, I would say between the algorithms of the EQs themselves, like the filters. I mean, everything about a DAW is different. That's why people are so set on what's the best DAW or what's the, who's reigning supreme. So let's talk about different DAWs. Like, okay, I'm going to throw you an underhanded pitch to start.
Okay.
Let's talk about Pro Tools.
Oh, thank God. Okay. So that's one I know very well, right? So this is another thing that Mick Gordon brought up. And I was like, yes, he found this weird, I don't want to say geeky, but whatever. It just came in my head. So like, I do a lot of automation on Pro Tools, right? And if you do if you make a selection, you drop that all the way down, you're going to have like a square wave, right? And if you listen to it, that will click, right? It's a very exact. It's saying, okay, we're going from this amplitude to this amplitude, like instantly, right? As fast as time can go in a computer, right? So you will get a click. So like I would always smooth out those transitions. I'd put another node there and then like delete the one so you have like a little curve so it doesn't click, right? That's just something that's ingrained to me. When I would do that same type of automation in FL Studio and I do like a hard, like on the hold setting where it's the same shape, and I'd listen, I'm like, why am I not hearing a click? What is going on here? And like I was like, I should hear a click. And like, do I not hear it? Are my headphones messed up or something like that? Am I doing something wrong? Come to find out, different DAWs will have a little bit of smoothing in there, like maybe 10 milliseconds of a smooth. There's like something so quick, or 20 milliseconds or whatever it is, maybe even shorter, to like prevent that click so people don't have to deal with that. So I guess that's one of the difference of Pro Tools in that sense. It's very exact. Okay. Whatever you do, you're going to get back.
Why, other than the fact that it's been, marketed towards professional studios forever, why do some people swear by Pro Tools and then other people are just like, that's not my favorite DAW? Like, what it is about Pro Tools that makes it so reverent and still held up after all these years? That kind of it holds its own in its own weight class, so to say.
There's people out there that'll say like, yeah, Pro Tools can't do this, can't do that, and that's true. Like, Pro Tools didn't get offline rendering until version 11. Which FL Studio's been doing that forever. You click, hit render.
Crazy. That to me blew my mind. Wild. Like, what?
But at the same time, like Pro Tools has been around for a long, long time. So it's ingrained into so many different studios. And at the same time, people have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the software and then training all the people how to use it. And every production company is going to be using Pro Tools at some spot. So imagine how much more money it would cost to get new gear. And then you're going to have this new software, teaching all these people this new software. Plus, like, for example, if I'm going to go record like 80, 90 inputs, I could never do that reliably in FL Studio. I'm saying like 90 inputs and let that record for like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Right. Imagine the stress if you're using a program that might crash, or Pro Tools does sometimes, but it's just kind of made to do things like that.
So my experience with Pro Tools, I actually caught up with Pro Tools right around the time, this was 2013, right around the time that they transitioned from like a professionals only product to an actual consumer product. So like
that
the
must have been Pro
like,
Tools 9 where they
yeah,
removed
so like the MBox
interface
had just come out, like the interface that they were
the
finally
MBox,
selling.
yes, yeah.
Right. So like that was the time when I first got into Pro Tools. I mean, I was using it in college, and that was like in the early 2000s, and it was just kind of clunky, but it was only used by professional studios. But like, you remember the days where like you'd have to have like these like $6,000 breakout boxes to run Pro Tools, and I think they even still sell those. Like, there's like these crazy expensive hardware extensions to Pro Tools and like all this other kind of stuff.
You couldn't even open the program if you didn't have it.
Right. You couldn't even open the program if you didn't have like it just like in today's world, that makes absolutely zero sense to the normal bedroom producer. Right. It's just like, that's just a completely different world. Like, why would you even want to do that? But how is it in, like I said, in today's world that Pro Tools still is like, you know, that go-to de facto standard, or have they sort of fallen behind the curve of where other DAWs currently are?
I think for them, they just stayed right in their market. I don't feel like they've tried to like expand too much and to do these things like really vamp out their MIDI editor, because really Pro Tools to me, in the sense is it's very great at editing, it's great at recording, but I remember the day where I was like, I'd switch from FL entirely to Pro Tools because it's what I would work in. It's just everybody used it, and if you ever need advice, there's some guy that would know shortcuts, and you'd geek out like, oh, you can do this, you know, you can do like your clip gain with this control, like control and shift in your scroll wheel will change the clip gain stuff, like cool stuff like that, right? So, and I get home and I'd fire up my Pro Tools and start to make it track, and I was like, I don't feel creative at all. Plus, I don't want to look at the screen any more than I have to. So that's why I went back to FL, where it felt more creative, and I would just crank out songs as it felt good.
Right.
But Pro Tools, I mean, the editing capabilities are crazy. Like, what's nice is, for example, let's say you're recording, I don't know, like 20 stringed instruments or a whole like section of things, and they play a lot at the same time. They don't play. You can group all those together and do like one fade, and it will attach that fade to everything. There's not many DAWs that can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, not that I know of, right? I don't think FL can do that. We have like all these tracks and you make one edit and it does all that. And that's another thing. Like, FL recently came out with like clip fades, which is crazy to me because they had offline rendering way back when, but now they had clip fades, and Pro Tools is the opposite. So it's like, you really got to figure out what's good for you. And,
I had an interesting experience. You know, recently I got asked to do a video for Pro Tools, and I had not used Pro Tools since those early days. I abandoned Pro Tools in late 2013. So I only used it for about a year. And then it was like I was on to the next DAW, right? But like, I had not used it in the 10-year span, right? So in 2024, I opened up a new version of Pro Tools for the very first time. Like,
what is this?
It was very much like, what is this? Like, I forgot all my bearings. I had lost completely my whole workflow and everything. So I had to relearn it from scratch. And you helped me, get my bearings straight. But one of the things that I could not figure out was how to get the mix window in a separate window from the actual timeline or the arrangement view.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it turns out that in order to make Pro Tools multi-screen, you have to literally drag the background window all the way across your screen.
That sounds like a Pro Tools
And then
thing.
if you have monitors like mine that are not exactly perfectly stacked, you're going to have like a whole section of your screen that's completely cut off. I was like, how asinine is this? That
that's weird.
You can't separate a screen from another screen in 2024. I message you on Discord. I'm like, dude, is this program made by dinosaurs? Are they just believing their own bullshit? Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, the program literally runs on its background window. Like, it's some canvas or something. I'm like,
I don't know if that was new or something, because like my old version was like 9, and I had a MacBook Pro 2011 one, and I would just put like another DVI fucking, what is it, the dongle thing to another monitor, and I would just drag the command equal screen, the mixer, all the way to that side, and it was fine.
But were your monitors not? I mean, if they're monitor,
no, it was like way to the side. So like it maybe it was a Mac thing. I don't know, but maybe it worked fine for me. But
either way, the Windows thing was weird, it was whack. Yeah. Anyway, so that was that. They have added a bunch of new MIDI tools, and that's why I made the video for Audio Modern to do the Pro Tools stuff. They're sort of adding some new MIDI like plugins and stuff, things like that. So, I mean, they are trying to like keep up with the times. They're trying to make Pro Tools a viable alternative. So, but will they innovate the DAW? Will the DAW ever change? That's the point I was trying to make. Will it ever inherently change to what it is now? I don't think so. I didn't get that vibe at all because I felt like I could have time warped from 2013 to 2024 and I would have been using the same program.
Yeah,
you know
I don't think it really does because, dude, I was on Pro Tools, specifically 10.3.10 forever because there's no reason to like update for me at least. I mean, like, yeah, the playlists are cool. There's a little blue triangle.
Right.
That's kind of nice. The fade clips have little shadows behind it. Looks cool. But
yeah,
for the most part, it just does what it does. And I think that stability is.
Yeah, I definitely think they've lost a lot of favor in the regular producer community. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this like the DAW of choice that you would say that everyone goes to? No. And we're going to get into those DAWs later. Okay. So that's the easy one, right? That's Pro Tools. Let's start there. The second one that I want to talk about is Ableton Live. And I would come in as the expert here on this because after Pro Tools, I switched to Ableton Live and I still haven't left. Like I'm still on Ableton.
They're going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, they're going to be around for a long time. And Ableton did things at the beginning that no other DAW had done. You know, they sort of like wrote the book almost in like, you know, session view, like launching clips and stuff like that. And the interesting thing about Ableton is that I tried Ableton Live like numerous times before I actually got into it. Like I was like, cause everyone was talking about Ableton in 2012 and 2013. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm going to try this. I'm going to download it. And I tried it. And I was like, this is the worst DAW I've ever used in my life. This is horrible.
That's funny.
I was so turned off by it. I was like,
why are my tracks on the right side? What's going on here?
I was like, delete. Like I couldn't get rid of it. The first time I tried it, I couldn't get rid of it fast enough. Then I tried it again. And I was like, how do people get into this? What is it? You know, the plugins being all squashed in the bottom of the screen.
That was a trip to see. Yeah.
And it was all this weird interface crap. And I was like, how do this junk? I was so turned off by it. But then the last time I installed Ableton, I was like, because this was like my partner who and I we were going to make music together. He was like, okay, we're going to use Ableton. I was like, okay, I guess this is it. I have to learn it now. Like I have to force myself to learn it. But once I like fully, instead of just like looking down the rabbit hole, I dove in the rabbit hole. Then I was in the rabbit hole. Then I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually pretty cool. And I learned over the course of 11 years, I've learned what the strengths are and what the limitations are of Ableton. It does some things really well and it does other things not so great. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of things left to be desired in Ableton Live. So
it's weird how DAWs are like that, right? Like they can do things that are so amazing, but then other sides is like, is this neglected? Is this a feature? Is this a bug? What's funny about Ableton though is, around, like you're saying, like 2013, 2012, like when it was kind of like it was super big buzz and everyone's talking about it, people are switching over. Generally, bands will have like a guy who plays tracks back, and it's always the Pro Tools guy, right? Because Pro Tools is it's Pro Tools, right? There's nothing else.
It's got a great name.
Slowly, people would come in, like different engineers or people with bands, and they were still the Pro Tools guy, but you'd look over there and they're running Ableton. Like, oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. And for a longest time, I kind of stayed away from it. I'm like, I don't know this weird, what is that Ableton thing? Why aren't you doing Pro Tools? You know?
Yeah, you're right.
I was like, I just didn't get it. But then like you look at, and you kind of look over the shoulder of these guys and you're like, this is actually kind of cool how they're doing stuff. Like people will launch stuff with clips and all that. It's a whole different workflow. It's not just have your track with your click and press spacebar and hope to God it doesn't crash. Yeah. So
yeah, there's some really great things in Ableton. Number one, I would say the first great thing in Ableton is it's a phenomenal like sketch pad for live performance. It's a phenomenal, like with the session view and like jamming, like nothing else is, everybody else has copied that. You know
is session view just the timeline? Because that always confuses me.
No, that's not the time. There's two separate views and literally it's in the logo itself. The logo of Ableton is horizontal lines and vertical lines.
Oh, that's what that means. Okay, so like in Bitwig they call it the arranger.
Session view. You know what I'm saying? Like it's literally in the logo. So what
do they call the clip thing when you launch clips? What is that called?
That's session view.
Okay, that's session view. It's confusing because like Bitwig's similar and they call it the clip. You know, okay,
because they copied Ableton, or obviously those guys were Ableton engineers, so they didn't copy them. They took their idea and they ran with it. So but Ableton was the first one to ever do that. I think maybe people would argue that maybe Acid was the first one. See, we're in a DAW war, right? So if this is a DAW war, people are going to fact checked us and all this other kind of, I don't care.
for sure.
We're just trying to have a conversation about it. Right. So anyway, Ableton basically wrote the book on that, and it's something it does really well. And the reason why it's so good is they give you different options for how you're going to launch those clips. Do you want it to repeat? Do you want to go to a random clip? You can generate a bunch of ideas. You can loop these clips. You can record new ones super fast. You can have a loop link, set loop link.
And people are doing that professionally, like on different productions. They have controllers and this thing, here's your cue. And then you have everything set up in the session view and you just press the button.
It's wild. And you can do some really crazy live performance stuff with Ableton. Now, on the other side is arrangement view, and you have a really great timeline. Now that brings me to, you can record, you can do MIDI, you can do whatever, you can drag between session and arrangement. That's one thing you really have to grasp at the beginning is how do arrangement and session view talk to each other. They don't talk to each other. They are completely separate windows. But if you learn the command key, which is tab, you can drag something from session to arrangement view just by holding tab.
Yeah, so you can kind of make your arrangement of your clips and then drag that in.
You can or you could record what's happening in session view in arrangement view. I didn't know that for 8 years.
Interesting.
It took me 8 years to figure that out. I was like, you could wait, what? Whatever happens in session view, if you press record in arrangement view, it records it. No one told me that. So anyway, in arrangement view, you have some really great, obviously you got the great timeline, you got the great MIDI editor, but what you don't have that other DAWs have is the audio editing features in Ableton are like little to none. Like there's
really? I always thought it was
like the audio editing itself. Yes, you have time stretching, but like actual audio editing, how you would have say in Pro Tools or say in other programs, you don't have that there. There's no audio.
Oh, right.
You can't clip little parts of clips and sew them together and blah, blah. You have none of that. You know what I'm saying?
So there's no tab to transients if you're doing
nothing.
Drum stuff.
Okay, you can do the, like I said, you could have audio warping, you have snap transients, things like that. But real audio editing that audio editors ask for.
That's one, there's a tool in Pro Tools and it's one of my favorites. It's the little pencil icon up on the top left, right? So there's times where if you hear a click or something like that, you notice the actual waveform is going from one spot to another spot instantly producing that click, right? So you can go into the waveform view, grab your pencil and redraw the waveform and correct any clicks.
Crazy. That kind of stuff, not in Ableton, right? Yeah. And not now. Maybe if someone digs up this podcast in 10 years, be like, oh, what were they talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's a cool tool, and you can sound design with that too. That was a project I did for my schooling for one of the last end of the years. The assignment was make a 30-second song, but don't use any third-party plugins or something like that.
Yeah.
So comes to the time, and then I got that pencil tool, and then I zoomed in really quick, and then to make a kick, I just a long kind of waveform, a little transient at the top, and then a long kick, and then snare, just drag it like that, and then it makes your sounds. You just draw literally draw a waveform. So that was
crazy.
Cool.
Okay,
another dude got busted with a guitar
along
rig,
those same lines, the other cool thing that Ableton has is it has Max for Live, which is a completely separate environment that is not only you can make your own plugin for, but it really opens up the community aspect because other DAWs are sort of locked to okay, you can only have VSTs or audio units, right? Yeah. But Max for Live is a completely separate side loading, plugin format or whatever that anyone can make plugins for Ableton. Anyone can make them. And they're not that hard to make. I've seen people who have zero programming knowledge be able to make them. They even added more features in the latest version to make your own Max for Live stuff.
Is that kind of like a Ableton version of Reactor in a certain way? You're building stuff like that?
Yeah. But see, this is the other thing is no one else was doing that when they came out with this. They partnered up with Cycling 74 and they're okay, let's do this. And it just, the Max for Live library is crazy. It's a free library where basically everything is free. There's some paid stuff out there that's really good, but the Max for Live library is full. Some of it's outdated, yes. But some of the stuff is really useful and you could find hidden gems in there all the time. Some of it's complete garbage, but a lot of the stuff in there is really cool stuff that's made by users for Ableton that could improve your music. That's all there. Most of it's for free. It's that's the whole community aspect. And that's one of the things that I love about Ableton is does Bitwig have that? I don't think Bitwig has that. I don't think
I feel like their version
Pro Tools is going to be the last DAW to ever have something like that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not a creative one.
Right. It's not creative DAW. So that was something another thing that they broke the mold with was the Max for Live library is just huge. It's a huge part of Ableton. And it's one of the things, it's one of the touting points that people say, oh, but like Bitwig's better than Ableton, but like, does it have Max for Live? No, because that it's a whole nother like section. It's almost like Reason and their racks. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk about Reason later, but like Reason and their racks, like anyone can make a rack extension or something, but like that's a whole nother like freaking Pandora's box, basically. Of usable plugins.
I've always wanted to look into that. I see people talking about it, make cool stuff in it. And I wonder if Bitwig's response to that was their grid. Because you know that different DAW companies must be looking over and like, dude, how did they get that time stretching algorithm? Jesus Christ, that sounds good. Maybe. What are we gonna do, guys?
Or maybe like you know, like we were talking about pigments. Like maybe Bitwig's grid was just a brainchild of someone who worked there who was like, we should have a full on like VCV rack in here. You know what I'm saying? We should have a full on kernel emulation in here, and that would really open things up for people. Or like it's more like, I guess it's more like Reactor, and it's even more like. There was an old plugin called Plog Bidule, which is like this weird thing where you like drag the freaking boxes and connect them all together and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It was
reminds me of Pure Data.
Yeah, it was a weird thing back in the day. All right. So anyway, that's Ableton Live. Also they have the push, and the push is another thing. You cannot mention Ableton without mentioning push, because push is a first party. Well, it's made by Kai, but it's still first party. That's like, it's a solid physical extension to the DAW.
Yes.
That completely changes the way you interact with the DAW. I have a push right here. Mine's push 2. The push 3 is out now. And these are solid devices that really do like take that to a whole nother level. I mean,
yeah, but isn't that what Martin has?
No, he sold it. He doesn't use Ableton anymore.
I thought there was like a script for Bitwig. Maybe there
is. I think he just didn't like the push, and so he sold it. But yeah, there's a script for Bitwig for the push. Sure, you could do that. But there's nothing like first party push on the Ableton.
This kind of blew my mind when I switched over to Bitwig, because they have these things called remote controls, which I believe in Ableton they're called macros, but they function the same way, right? So like you have a device and you have these remote control pages. So you have these 8 knobs, and that's one page. So you can map those to whatever you want. Yeah. And then you can go to a next page and there's another 8 ones. And now you can either save that as specific to that preset that you're working on, or as an instance. So every time you load up whatever synth you want, then those 8 parameters are going to be mapped to those parameters in your synth. Yeah. Which is really cool, because I spent like a day in adding all those knobs. And like once you control that from a controller and it's the same every time, it's so nice. And I think Ableton has that.
You can do that in 30 seconds on Ableton.
It's exactly. Yeah. That concept is so cool. Yeah, you can just switch your pages. I want to control the VCA now. I want to control the filters. It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's parallel. Let's kind of do a lateral here, and now let's talk about Bitwig, because Bitwig was a DAW that you were sort of outside on the fence for many years. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, and it wasn't until we had Alchemy on the show where you're like, oh, I really need to try it. It was also Omri too. I think it was Omri's episode where you're like, okay.
Each one of them pushed me a little bit forward. Like Dash kind of nudged me, and then Omri kind of pushed me, and then it just eventually fall over.
Yeah. Right? Okay. So now you're in the mix. So like tell us about Bitwig, and how does it differ from any other DAW that you've used in the past?
Oh, it's a weird concept, because so starting off with Pro Tools, right? You kind of like, you're forced into this linear timeline, right? But also using FL Studio, it's kind of like a modular DAW in a way. Like there's so many different workflows that you can do. If you ever watch Ben Jordan use FL Studio, you're like, Jesus Christ, my brain hurts. So there's so many different ways. So Bitwig kind of felt like both of those in a certain way. Like you can use a clip launcher, which is kind of a cool concept. You can also just use like the arrangement view. Just, here's your tracks, here's your linear workflow. Sure. That's really cool, because I know some people are like, I just know FL Studio and the linear breaks my brain, or the linear people say FL Studio breaks their brain. Like I have both in my head, so it's not really like an issue for me. But I do say like the simplicity and the cleanliness of that software is one thing that drew me over, because I felt there's all the windows and stuff, and it's easy to get lost. And like, if you don't really make sure to stay clean, once you have a session that has a lot of tracks, there's a lot of recordings going on, it's easy to like, okay, what clip is this MIDI clip triggering? Is it this? Okay. Is it tied to the mixer? There's all these things you have to think about. And if you're working fast, which you kind of have to do if there's people with you and you're recording other people, like you can't just sit there for like 10 minutes. And, okay, do you have the click in your ear? Okay, let's go. You can't do that. Right? You got to go fast. And if you go fast, you might not be able to stay organized. And then there was days where I'd spend like the next day and just organizing, color coding this, and like cleaning up the session from people that I would have here recording.
Sure.
In Bitwig, it's just clean. It's just right there. It's clean. There's a window, and then like you're saying with Ableton, like the devices at the bottom, that was so weird to me. I'm like, what are these goofy little things? What is this? But then once you get used to it, you're like, I can look at my EQ, I can look at the compressor, I can look at everything that's happening on these little devices, see my screen at the same time, and look at my tracks at the same time. This is amazing. And you can interact with them at the same time. Like,
it was groundbreaking when Ableton came out with it. Obviously, the Bitwig engineers were all former Ableton employees. Not all of them, but at least the core group was the core group that separated off. So they knew that, and they're like, okay, this is the sort of template that we have. Let's take this concept, and it's not like Ableton patented it or something. But they could have. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, they could have, because it was such a unique way to do DAW, right? It was such a unique way to like, have be organized and to have these things interact, and then like have like a order and a structure. You know what I'm saying? Like, this
even
plugin goes after this one.
That.
This plugin goes after this one. This plugin goes after this one. Now, one thing that Bitwig does that Ableton still does not do is having multiple MIDI plugins on the same track. You can do that in Bitwig, right?
Multiple MIDI plugins on the same track. I haven't done that. I don't know.
Really? I heard that's possible.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the stuff that's in there, like I watched some videos out there and like,
because in order to do MIDI, like you have to route MIDI plugins to MIDI separate tracks in Ableton, but you can do it all in Bitwig.
Oh, do you really? I didn't know that. Wow. You just like click like a new instrument track and select your synth, and you just play.
Boom. Just keep on going.
The modulation is really cool though. Like that is amazing.
That's sort of everybody. That's like everyone knows, right? It's like that's the big tout of Bitwig is the modulation system is like
it's
second
insane.
to none. Yeah,
it's literally crazy. And then also, in Ableton does this as well. There's a lot of similarities between the two, but one of my biggest gripes from switching from FL to Bitwig was the automation, right? So like in FL, if you wanted to automate the cutoff, right, you would like wiggle the cutoff, and you say like right click or what was it? There's like a menu, and it's like tweak this parameter. God, I can't believe I'm forgetting it. I even made a video on. You basically have to like move a knob and go to a menu and then create an automation clip, and then it pops in somewhere on the timeline if it's not like linked to it, your playlist. Yeah. And like, sure, that's fine, whatever, as long as you're staying organized. But I would see people working in Ableton and like they'd click the cutoff, and then there's already the automation lane ready for you to like just go and make the curves. I'm like,
that's right.
It's already done. Like, you don't have to make it. It's like, no, it's click on the resonance, bring it up. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. So like moving to that workflow to me was amazing. Like I know people will say like they like the clip automation in FL Studio because you can make like a half bar, like a saw wave downwards, and just copy that forever and make small changes. That's kind of cool, I guess. Yeah. I never worked that way, so didn't matter to me.
Yeah, I mean, these are tools, right? These are tools. And if you know how you like to work and you have a certain workflow, then the tool should respond to the producer's natural intuition. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get these tools to do what we want them to do in the easiest way possible, which is why even different DAWs exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, here's a different way to do it. Here's another way to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I'll still use FL for their piano roll. Like that's one thing that I wish other companies out there would kind of listen to the bass like that. Most people will tell you FL's piano roll is like the best person. Like I know people might like my MIDI editors here, like open up the Pro Tools MIDI editor and then open up FL's piano roll and you'll see what I mean. Like some of them are so basic, it looks like you're filling out your taxes. It sucks. But then you got FLs and there's so many different tools and it's so fluid to use and it's nice and it makes sense. And now there's like a AI chord generator that they built in. It's like, good Lord, they're ahead of the curve. Yeah. Other companies should really look at that and say, maybe make it a little bit better.
Yeah, right. I just had this funny analogy, like all DAWs are just basically dishwashers. So like there's different kinds of dishwashers, but inherently they all do the same damn thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
that's true. Yeah.
It's
you haven't had an LG one then, yeah.
How do you want to organize your dishes? Oh, this one's got double racks and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, well, okay,
adjustable. You can bring it up if you have a little pan in there.
What happens when you open the door? Well, there are your clean dishes. That's it.
I mean, that's true. That's true. and the vibe of it.
So Bitwig is obviously a hot. They had the snafu. There was a big controversy. I think it was 2 years ago.
I heard about that. It was before my time there, so I'm not really sure what happened there.
And pricing and all kinds of stuff. There was some weird stuff that happened with them. They rectified it
Wasn't it like they like wanted to add paid devices or something? Was that it?
No, it wasn't. It had something to do with Ben and Cameron and all kinds of weird stuff that.
Yeah, because when that came up, I was like, I don't know what this Bitwig is.
Had
like,
them
it didn't
revolting.
Matter, so.
I mean, and causing, like a civil war basically within the divide between the companies and the influencers and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I don't think any audio company has gone unscathed through DAW wars.
They haven't, dude. Like I can pick Avid's Pro Tools, like till the cows come home. There's so much crap I hate about that software, but there's a lot of things I love about it.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, like
every company has been caught up. So Bitwig is there. They're certainly, I mean, their pricing structure is not like other DAWs. That's another thing we didn't even talk about. Well, we sort of touched on it with Pro Tools, but pricing is a really important factor when choosing your DAW. Like, what is the price of this DAW? And then, what is now we're living in 2024 where like everybody, Tom, Dick, and Jerry's company is doing subscriptions. You know what I'm saying? They're charging you for access to the software. They're not charging you for the software itself.
Yeah, Pro Tools same way. Like that's
which is okay. So some companies still don't do this, which is kind of nice. If you make the argument, Ableton doesn't do this. Okay, they charge you for new big versions, like the new version, like it's a number, right?
Okay,
but if you buy, say, 11, you're going to pay $599 for it. But then 12 is another $500, or the update to 12 is going to be like $200 or something. You know what I'm saying? They have update.
Oh, so you're not like buying the whole version again. Like you're just doing like an upgrade.
You're not buying the whole version again. Okay. However, they update like once every 3 years for a full version. So essentially it's like $200 every 3 years. That's a pretty good price when you consider how much Bitwig is for a year. I don't know what I think
they do yearly. Yeah.
It's a yearly price. So you're paying for the year. Whereas other DAWs like Logic and like Reaper and
Reaper's pricing. That's insane. It's like please consider purchasing this,
So other, FL Studio, I don't know. I think FL Studio is free forever. So like you buy it once, it's free forever.
Blows my mind because I know you have to pay your engineers, right? to do the engineering and build the plugins and programs and fix bugs. And I just never understood. I'm like, how is this company surviving on free updates for life? Like you buy the license once and you can even get it on like a Black Friday sale for like way cheaper than the regular price.
Right.
So how do they keep their companies employed? How do they keep pushing out these updates? Because they're always doing revisions and betas and this, and they keep pumping new stuff in, and it's mind blowing.
I guess there's more and more up and coming producers who are like, I heard FL's the bomb, and they're coming before they even knew that FL was originally called Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
XXL edition, yeah.
Dude, it was Fruity Loops, bro. Like if you don't know what FL stands for, it's Fruity Loops, and they used to have the cheesy logo with the freaking thing. And there was no way I was going to touch Fruity Loops back in the day. I was like, are you kidding me? This is a garbage DAW. But then I saw how people were using it and I was like, and over the years, it kind of got me more and more like curious about it. When they switched over to FL finally, I was like, okay. And then I saw some people who, in the past, I'd say 4 years since COVID, and they showed me their screens and they're showing me what they're working on with FL. I was like, sounds good. Like that's legit. Yeah. That's a legit DAW, and that's a legit way of doing it. And there's legit plugins in there that are like, no joke, like, okay, and that's again, like, it's just DAWs maturing and it's DAWs being DAWs. Like,
and that's the thing. They started way early on,
I know.
And their intention wasn't like, we're going to make a full-fledged DAW with all these features. Like as the times grew, more demands met as people started using it more. So they're like, okay, I guess let's turn this into a bigger thing. Whereas, companies maybe, I guess like Bitwig, for example, they come in at a later time, so they know, I guess, more exactly the path they want to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff I've noticed, and maybe even in Ableton too, a lot of the things look like they belong together. Like it's part of one thing.
It's one thing. Exactly. Right. So yeah, I mean, think about it. Like one more thing on price is like, the pricing. Do you know what the pricing in Bitwig's yearly is? Do you?
Ah, man, I don't know off the top of my head. We'll have to look at the website, but I think it's every year. I think that's the time frame. But as far as how much it costs, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, think about other pricing structures like Adobe, for example. Like Adobe's price
right.
for all of their programs is $60 a month times 12. You know what I'm saying? That's for their creative suite, which is arguably like way more software. I mean, you're getting like 15 programs or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you use it all the time, though, I guess it kind of makes sense. But
each program is $10 per month. If you want to go a la carte and you just buy $10, like it's like, okay.
Oh, can you do that?
You can do that. So I mean,
interesting.
Goddamn, when Adobe went, because Adobe was buy the whole thing at once. And when they went subscription, they were one of the first major software companies to do it. There was riots.
Oh, I know.
People were so pissed, especially photographers who were like, this is my bread and butter. And now you're going to charge me per month to use it. Like, are you like insane?
And there's really not that many good alternatives out there for Photoshop.
There wasn't. And that's the thing is Adobe knew that and they had people strangleholded like, no, this is, we're going to go subscription only. Mm-hmm. And then they had to backtrack severely because when they first came out with it, I think it was $60 a month only. And you could only buy it for $60 a month.
God.
And photographers were so mad and videographers and motion effects artists, everybody who was using the products, they were pissed. And so I think it was only a couple months after that. They're like, oh, wait a minute. No, we're going to separate this out. We're going to fix this. So then they said, all right, $9.99 per program. So if you only use 2 programs out of the 15, I don't know how many there are, maybe it's 20. If you only use, say you only use Illustrator and Photoshop, that's $20 a month. If you use Premiere, Illustrator, and Photoshop, that's $30 a month.
Okay, that's I guess better. But
then if you use more than 5, it's less economical. I mean, it's more economical to buy their whole thing, right? The whole thing, right? So that's that. So that's they were the ones who sort of set the standard on. And then all the audio companies caught wind of this. They're like, oh, really? Subscriptions? Okay. We smell the blood in the water, right? It's like, okay. So now we have Bitwig doing it. Ableton is a German company. I don't know if they're ever going to do that. You know what I'm saying? They have FL, which is free forever. Logic, which is just more Logic to me. Okay. So this is another thing. We haven't talked about Logic yet. But Logic is basically, they don't give it away, but they do bundle it with every new computer sale. Like if you want,
is that what it is? Interesting.
Yeah. So like if you want to buy a Mac, you have the option. If you want to add Final Cut Pro or Logic, it's an extra $200. So sometimes people check that box. Sometimes people check that box and they're like, yeah.
Does it come pre-installed? Because when I got it, it
doesn't come pre-installed. You have to download it. But it's
I still have the box.
But
like
no.
Logic thing.
Oh, yeah, right. So like it would come pre-installed if you check that box. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Okay.
Like if you check that box, they're going to install it for you. And okay, so I never used Logic for the whole time I was producing music. And I finally started using Logic last year. Again, same reason. Partner of mine said, we're going to use Logic now. So I was like, okay, I got to learn this DAW. And this is me now, a professional producer, coming to a brand new DAW to learn it for the first time. And I'll tell you what, that DAW, coming from its old roots, you remember when Logic was a PC DAW?
It was like eMagic.
Yeah, old school stuff, right? And then it moved to then Apple bought it, and then they basically started updating some of the plugins. We've talked about the Alchemy thing before, but I opened up Logic and I was like, okay, and then I started looking around and peering around and like kind of like how you open up the shiniest things first,
right?
And you play with the new toys and stuff, but then I started like expanding my like I wanted to look at every single plugin. Holy shit, dude, there are some dinosaurs in there, like stuff that has not been changed in years, interfaces that look like they belong in 2010. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy to me that Apple, the richest company in the world, is selling this thing to people, and those plugins are dinosaurs.
Weird.
Legit.
Yeah, that's kind of strange.
It's like, I was mind blown. I was like, you mean to tell me in 2024 or 2023 is when I bought it, you're going to sell me this? Like this is a product that you sell.
It's like Pro Tools' EQ7 that looks exactly the same.
You make the cleanest design physical products and the
beveled edges and
everything. I mean, remember when Joni Ive was there and they were like touting like titanium this and we're manufacturing this. And I open up Logic and I get this shitty.
Even like when you minimize the screen, it does that like wiggly thing. You're like, okay.
I was like, What? It was just, I couldn't believe that the company with that much money, that they couldn't hire a group of like 5 to 10 people who are UI designers to take those damn plugins and at least give them a fresh UI, at least give them a modern Appleized user experience. You know what I'm saying?
And it kind of blows my mind in a sense that I think it's one of the only, I guess, popular or big or, I don't know, professional DAWs out there that are only for Mac. That's crazy to me. Like, I know. They could make so much more money, port to Windows, port to Linux, dude. That's
my God.
A lot of people. I don't think
that's the conclusion I came to. I don't think they care. Like, I don't think they're worried about this. This is not their main selling point. They sell iPhones, they sell Macs, they sell AirPods, they sell whatever. They just ditched their car program. They're not going to sell cars anymore. So like, they sell stuff that's like high end, that's like their bread and butter. But Logic is down there way near the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
That is. I mean, it's more and more people use it. I honestly think
I know somebody who works on the team. I don't think they're, they're sort of just, it's simmering back there, dude. It's still on the stove, but it ain't boiling hot. It ain't boiling hot no more. Because if it was, they'd be pushing it, and they'd be pushing those plugins, and they'd be leveling it up the same way Arturia levels up Pigments, and these other DAW companies are leveling up their DAWs. You don't see that really. You just see like little, Logic, don't get me wrong, Logic does get updates, but they're not like, it's not like, it's been called Logic X or Logic Pro 10 now for how long?
That's when I dropped off. I got 9, and then
years.
That was the last version I had.
So it's been a long time. I don't think they'll ever go to 11. And if I think
Ableton replaced what they were supposed to be, because going to school for that, it was Pro Tools that they're going to teach you, and Logic. Like, these are going to be the main two that you're going to be faced with. So we're going to teach you both of these. So there's Pro Tools classes, and you do exercises. There's Logic classes, you do exercises and all that.
Right.
And using Logic, I'm like, this is pretty cool. Some of the shortcuts make sense, like X's Mixer. I'm like, I always remember that one. I'm like, that's kind of cool. The plugins sounded fine. They were good. And I'm like, okay, so it's going to be Pro Tools for like recording stuff and maybe playing stuff back. Logic might be more producing creative stuff like that. But then fast forward to now, I see probably Ableton 9 times out of 10. And then that one time is probably Logic.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, Logic is not a bad DAW.
Don't
get me wrong. Just because some of the plugin interfaces are complete garbage. Some of the other plugin interfaces that have been updated were kind of nice. They weren't fully Appleized. They weren't completely like revamped, but like it was cool. Like I still use it, and I'm like, all right, this is good. It's a traditional DAW. There's no like session view. There's nothing like crazy like that. There's nothing like that would really make me go, wow, this is a really edgy user experience.
Maybe that's not the crowd they're going for. Maybe it's like, this is just here. You got interface.
There's no sense that there's anyone out there. Like, it's no community features. There's nothing like that. So it's very like, it's a closed system, and it's very much a DAW that's kind of like got its roots in the past, and it's never grown out of that. But what it does it very well. And I produced 2 albums in, the last year, and they're some of the best albums I've ever written. You know what I'm saying? And that, I think they're great albums, and I'm really happy with the 2 new Ascendant albums. You can buy them now. But like, those albums were produced entirely in Logic, started in Logic, finished in Logic, mastered in Logic.
There you go.
And that it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's okay. Like, like you were saying, like, they all have the same summing engines, really. You're summing it to stereo, it's coming out the other end, and there you go. That's your product. So
isn't there like a similarity between GarageBand? Isn't that like, don't they share something?
No. The GarageBand is Logic Lite. I mean, GarageBand is based on the same framework. It's based on the same concept. I can't remember the timeline if GarageBand was around before Logic or after Logic. I cannot remember.
Well, I remember on my laptop when I got it in 2011, I saw GarageBand. I don't know if it was like pre-installed.
Because GarageBand does come bundled with every Mac.
I saw it on my GarageBand.
It's just like Pages. It's just like Messages. It's like there. Like, the GarageBand is there. That's the intro. And if
I clicked it and I loaded it up, and I like played with it for like 2 minutes. I think I literally said LOL, and I closed it and never opened it again.
Yeah, if you're like say you're like a 14-year-old kid, and you're like, I want to make music now, and you like open up GarageBand, you're going to make music, and then you're like, I can only make 8 tracks, and it's only just loops, and yeah, you can do more than loops, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
right,
you get to the point where you're like, Mom, Dad, can you buy me Logic Pro because it has this, 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 and this? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's smart. It keeps you in your lane. You don't stray
it keeps
too
you in
far.
your lane. And it also keeps you in the Apple ecosystem, and they know that. So
that's good. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it keeps you in the Apple framework and
I wonder
mindset.
if like the people who use it now like kind of think GarageBand. Why is it called that? We're like, I was in a GarageBand. Everyone's in a GarageBand, but maybe that's not a thing anymore.
Apple name ever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the GarageBand, man. Like, you know, like, because it's bundled with every single Mac. So it's as household as iTunes was. I mean, iTunes doesn't exist
The thing that's cheesy with those to me is like you open up a, like if you're going to make a guitar track, there's like a little icon of a guitar.
I thought that was cheesy too.
That looks so stupid to me.
Dude, it's there in Logic.
Is it real? Oh my God. Here's a vocal track. Here's a little microphone.
The thing is that I set up my own template in Logic, so I never have to see that shit.
Those symbols are dumb.
So I just have it like set up where every default MIDI track is just the little like musical notes. It looks so much cleaner and it's so much better. But if you click on the icon, you get all that cheesy 3D icons.
The little Stratocaster, bro. But like what is that?
But, okay, so that was my point about the interfaces. You took enough time to like Appleize this stuff. Why didn't you go all the way with it? You know what I'm saying? Why didn't you go all the way? But okay, like maybe you got other plans. I don't know. Who knows? We'll have to get my friend, the Logic engineer, in here and ask him some questions. All right, so that's Logic.
Yeah.
The other ones that are still out there are like Cubase.
Yeah.
Cubase is still out there. I mean, Cubase, Steinberg I'd say they're not innovators in the industry, but they are pioneers.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
they
true.
are. You know what I'm saying? When back in the day, like Cubase was the DAW for like composers and MIDI editors. Like it had a really strong MIDI component.
Right.
Everyone who said, "Oh, if you use Cubase, you're like a producer who does like MIDI stuff." You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, it's been around for a while. I mean, it's still I do see that one quite frequently.
Long time. So, I mean, why would you choose Cubase in 2024? You know, like what would be the reason?
That is a good question. That's something I kind of would want to ask Dash about because that's where his background came from.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've seen though, it can do a lot of the stuff. So like, there's no reason if people started with it, there's probably not too much reason for them to switch to something else because like they know all the shortcuts, they have their workflow down, and you know, again,
you know what the DAW can do, you know how to use it, and therefore, if that's the DAW you have, that's probably the best one for you, right? Just like we talked about in the synth episode. I said, what's the best synth? It's the one right in front of you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to make music and that's what you got, you make music with that.
Yeah. And if you know it and you feel comfortable to, like you just stay with what you need, unless I guess it doesn't do something that you specifically need for a certain task, then maybe, like if I'm comping a crap load of tracks and have a lot of takes, I would open up Pro Tools before anything else because like I know that workflow and I got it down really well.
Yeah, but it's interesting. You know, what's interesting about Cubase is like you and I are someone who both have our fingers on the pulse of like the DAW like world. I never hear about Cubase updates, or I never hear about like Cubase new stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's just out there. Like, okay,
it's not as. I don't think many young people use Cubase really. No. I mean, at least I have not seen that too much. Maybe some here and there, but I know that people swear about their pitching algorithms. Maybe they're good. I can't speak on that because I don't really use it, but I mean, it could probably, I mean, that's the thing with nowadays too. Like back when there were some DAWs that were objectively better than others, like without a doubt.
Yeah.
Fast forward to now, there's so much better, like analog and digital synths, right? There was a time where analog sounded objectively superior than plugins. But now it's kind of like, I'm of the camp where like, I'd rather have a software synth than a hardware synth. That's just a preference of mine. I don't like seeing knobs like in a different spot, and like imagine the filter cutoffs all the way down, and then you open up a new patch where it's up, the knob hasn't moved, and it lies to me, and it frustrates me. It makes me go crazy.
It lies to you. John Audio is talking about lies.
I'm like, this cutoff should not be there. This is wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just a physical.
They have to move it. Does it latch to that stupid fucking? Okay.
But you're right though. I mean, it's basically it's kind of the same now. I mean, we're approaching that 0 point where it can be as good. Software is really good nowadays. You know, you can do whatever you want with it.
Do you remember the name of that one DAW? Oh, God, I think it's something with an S, like Sonoma. I don't know. It's like what mastering engineers swear by, and it's really expensive or something like that. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah. Now I sort of,
So now
I know
I
what you're
forget what it's
talking about.
called,
It's not
but-
on the tip of my tongue, but I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. There is a DAW out there that is very niche.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it exists
And
anymore.
expensive. Which
Uh-huh.
I was like, maybe there's tools that they have. I don't know. So I'm kind of curious about that. If anybody knows about that,
chances
let me know.
are, I probably think that I don't think so. Again, it's the same argument. It's the same summing engine. It's
Yeah.
the same. It's going to be the same result. So whatever you do, because there's other DAWs we didn't cover today. There's Acid, which is one of the all-time classic DAWs.
Oh yeah, did you ever watch that one guy? I forget the name of it, but I watched it recently. And he's like a British guy, and he's talking about this, how he produces this track. I think he's on Acid, and like the information is really interesting what he gives off. But like you look at the screen, and this is a long time ago, and he still has like a CRT monitor, and it's like square, and like the interface. I'm like, oh my god, how does he work with this?
Unbelievable,
But
right?
you know what? He did it.
It ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So, Nuendo is a DAW I've never even touched before. But that's out there.
Nuendo. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Dude, the first time I saw that, I think it was a guy who's like maybe 80 years old who used it.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, and this is before I really knew about anything, and he's like, Nuendo sounds better than Pro Tools. And I was like, I don't know how to respond to that because I just don't have enough information. Like, okay, like, all right. And then I tell it to other people, I'm like, yeah, this guy thinks that Nuendo sounds better. They're like, nah, he's crazy. And then some people say, oh yeah, but it does. And fast forward to now is Summing Engine. So it's like, unless you're using specific plugins of Nuendo that's different from something else, then that will change. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Another one is Cakewalk, which was bought by PreSonus. I forget
What,
when.
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Cakewalk still exists, and I guess is it free? I guess
I have
Cakewalk.
I've heard it around. I think I saw Ben Jordan use it on a video or something, but I've never downloaded or used it. It looks interesting.
Right. So Cakewalk is out there. I mean, that's another option for you. Like if you're searching for the ultimate DAW for yourself. But I mean, again, if you run down the list that I just said, Nuendo, Cakewalk, Acid. I mean, these are all like really, like I said, you know what I'm saying? Reaper is another one that is actually
one's creeping up fast.
More common than you'd think because they offer you like a really ridiculous like free trial for like 90 days or something. And then
the pricing's good.
They ask you to pay for it. And if you don't click accept, you don't have to pay for it.
It's like WinRAR. It's just like, can you pay for it? Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
That's it. That's it. I downloaded Reaper and they kept asking me for $50 and I was like, nope. But then it never went away. But then at the same time, I never had to click accept and it was still worked. You know what I'm saying? It was like the endless demo. It's the endless DAW demo, right? So Reaper is still, but it's a great option. I mean, if you only have 50 bones and you really want to donate that to Reaper, go for it. I think they're a great company. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of people love Reaper. I've never made a song in it ever.
A lot of, I noticed that where I saw it the most was either monitor mixers or front of house mixers that would have a laptop on the side and they're just multi-tracking all the inputs on Reaper. I'm like, it's stable. It's good. It doesn't really.
Exactly. It works, right?
And that's what you need.
That's what you need. You need a good, solid working DAW.
And there's a Pro Tools theme for it as well. It looks hilarious. I don't know if you
really?
Oh my God. Yeah.
But see, that's the thing is they're sort of like, they're kind of cut from the same cloth almost.
It feels that way. Yeah.
Like it kind of feels like they're both like very tracking linear DAWs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I don't know.
Hopefully they don't go the Avid path and squeeze you for every penny you're worth.
Dude. Oh my God. Okay. So, wrapping this up, there's a couple more DAWs on the list. Reason, which, is now, now not owned by Propeller Heads. They call themselves Reason Studios. Now, this is a DAW that
I did not know that. When did that happen?
They changed their name maybe like 5 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. I always remember like Propeller Heads was like there's their logo.
But I have publicly, I've publicly defecated on Propeller Heads or Reason Studios for
have you really? Wow.
Well, I mean, that's pretty strong words, but
like they didn't support VSTs or something.
Well, they didn't for a long time. They were a closed system. But what happened with me and Reason, and what happened, I think, with a lot of people in Reason, is Reason sort of lost the plot with what producers actually want, and their marketing and their everything just kind of went really weird after a while. And I think they could still capture the attention of a lot of normal producers because Reason in itself is not a bad product. Now, talk about a DAW that is selling you the same thing over and over again. They still have some of the original synthesizers that were in Reason 1 in Reason 12. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the same interfaces, and I doubt they've changed the coding. Like coding meaning not the code of paint, but like they've changed the code, like the coding of it. It's still the same Maelstrom. It's still the same Dr. Rex. It's still the same. Like everything in Reason is still the same. Yet they keep, jumping up saying, now you got to, now it's a subscription only. Now it's subscription. I don't think you can buy it.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think they lost the plot of what producers are actually asking for because everyone was begging them for VSTs forever. They were like, add VST support, add VST support. And then they did it. And I was kind of like, okay, a little too late. It was way too late. It was like, if they had done that in version 4 or 5, people would have been all over it. Like, whoa, okay, it would have been the next Ableton Live. But I think it would just came like 5 versions after that or something. Like it was something really crazy.
People already moved on at that point.
They moved on at that point. And it was like, I made some of my earliest music on Reason. And I have really nostalgic memories over just dragging blocks and making stuff in Reason. But nowadays, I couldn't see myself using it unless they change their tune, unless they come up with a great reason for me to use it, or come up with a great reason for me to take my legit. I think my license is from version 2.5 or.
Do you have it installed still or no?
No.
Oh, that's funny.
No, I don't have it installed.
You're like, no,
all right. So anyway, and then the copyright thing was oh my God, we didn't even talk about that. Some DAWs have Reason was the last one, a literal dongle that you have to enter.
Oh, thank God you brought that up. That infuriates me.
Oh my God,
dude.
Do you remember dongles?
Pro Tools still does that, and it drives me crazy. It's like, how have you not realized that your customer base hates these stupid iLok things?
No, I didn't have to use a dongle.
I mean, there's the cloud and stuff now, but let's say, for example, you have a laptop, you're recording in an area with no internet.
I did have to use iLok. Yeah.
Yeah. And most laptops from maybe the last, 10 years, my MacBook, for example, there's 2 USB ports on the side. And I don't like using the trackpad. If I have a mouse, I have all my macros on there. So I have a mouse and then my keyboard or my Jesus Christ, the mouse in the first USB. So now if I have to run Pro Tools, I have to put in the iLok and burn up a USB. And a lot of the times, someone comes up, I need a file. I need to give this file. So they'll bring you a USB stick. You have to give them. So you have to either pull it out or use a hub or do something stupid. And then sometimes you can get away if you pull the iLok out and then put the USB stick in. You have a little bit of time to transfer the file over and then put the iLok back in. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. And it's
freaking,
it's stupid.
Ridiculous.
I know.
Come on now. First of all, John, you should get the iLok license and tie it to the freaking either your cloud or your machine. You can tie iLok licenses to your
that's probably
actual
the thing,
machine.
Yeah. I hate those
Don't
things.
use physical dongles. That should be outlawed. It should be illegal for companies to sell dongles in 2024 because we don't use physical media anymore. Barely. I mean, okay, the SD card for whatever reason hasn't died.
And they're all the bigger USBs. Now everything's going to USB-C ports for laptops. So it's
everything's going to C.
now to use this thing, I have to put in
everything is going to C.
Yeah. So you have to have a converter to plug in it's so stupid.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're listening, don't do that. Don't make any DAW. I mean, the way copyright protection should be is with a user account and a password. And when I log in, all I have to do is log in with my user account and password that I have with your website, and you talk to each other and you work it out, and that's it.
And you have all your ports available to you.
It does not go further than that. You have an account and a password, and you tell me I log in to the same user account and password that I have on your website, and you guys work out the license, and that's it.
And I feel too that nowadays, as far as piracy goes,
we're online. Okay, but here's the thing: companies say, "Okay, that's cool, Chris, but what if you're in a place where I have no internet access?" You know what I'm saying? What if this happens? Do it once. Give me an offline license. You know what I'm saying? Let me just store my license on my computer.
Couldn't you do even a timed license or something?
Something.
Right.
Do something like that.
Don't
make me do physical media. That's lame. All right. So anyway, but we've covered most of them. I mean, the only one that we left out was Digital Performer, and that's, believe it or not, in 2024, Digital Performer still exists.
I know.
It was my first real DAW, and I used that. It was It was Mac only for many, many years until they finally made a PC port. It has a weird like language, and they're almost like Pro Tools and like DP are like cousins. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like they're weird, distant cousins. They're not distant. They're almost first party cousins. They're cousins of each other, but then they have the weird terminology that no other DAWs have. You know what I'm saying? Like Digital Performer still runs off this weird like chunks of audio and bytes of this and blah blah blah, and it's like what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you have to take a master class in order to run DP. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those Pro Tools style DAWs. But I don't want to end on that. I mean, it is what it is. So like, the best DAW that you have is I mean, the one that you can use the best. You know what I'm saying? They're all whatever workflow you find yourself in. Don't be looking over the fence like, oh, that DAW looks really nice. I should try that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should try that. If you try that and it doesn't work out, then don't feel like you have to go there because everyone else is using it. You know what I'm saying? Don't feel like you have to switch to this just because everyone else is switching to that. I think different DAWs exist for a reason. So we have the option of choice.
They exist for a logic and a reason, right? Yeah.
Well, companies, oh God. So the companies want us to use their products, obviously, but, you know, just make good music and, you know, DAWs will always be around. Well, in their current state, we had a different conversation about that with Casey, which was like, you know, what is a DAW and how could we improve that? You know, there's a lot of different things I think we could do in the future. Looking out into the harmonic horizon, like there's a lot of things we could do with the DAW that would go beyond what the DAW can do now.
You're painting with sound, you know, you should.
Yeah, you're painting with sound. We'll get there eventually. You know, how long it'll take, that's up for debate.
Yeah.
It'll depend on how fast, you know, because I mean, think about it. We've had exponential growth in CPU power and everything else. You know what I'm saying? Since we first started. Like the amount of tracks that I can run in my DAW now, it puts my 2004 DAW to shame. You know what I'm saying? Like, like no way. Like there would be no way I'd be able to run that. And even synths alone, I mean, synths are getting more and more complex and they're getting more and more CPU heavy, but we're also increasing CPU power because we have computers that can run that. So, you know, hopefully one day there'll be a point, I'm thinking way far into the future now, there'll be a point where we don't even think about it. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't even think about it.
You are the DAW.
I meant like the speed of the processing and the limit.
That's not going to be a thing at all. It's just people are like,
you know
oh yeah, back in the day, people used to have to worry about CPU usage. That'll probably be a thing.
Can you imagine that? Like that'd be crazy. Like just like, whoa, like I don't really, I can do whatever I want and not have to think about, is my processor running fast enough? Is my computer going to overload? Are my fans going to turn on?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it'll be such a foreign concept like anti-skip on a Discman. This got 30 seconds anti-skip, you know? I remember that
shit. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to it. So until that time, you know, make good music, enjoy yourselves. I'll see you guys in the future when we're not thinking about my 5900X. Is that powerful? Can I run this? Can I run this DAW?
How many instances?
Yeah, how many tracks?
Yeah, and I guess the question for you guys out there, what is the DAW you use? Did you switch from a DAW? Did you maybe find something that you don't like about it or that you like about it? Let us know. We're kind of curious about that. And we'll see you in the next video.
If you're interested in supporting the podcast, please subscribe to the Signs of Life and John Audio channels on YouTube. The link for our channels is down below in the description and in the show notes. For the video version of this show, please subscribe to the Harmonic Horizons YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest episodes. For bonus content, including additional podcast material, head over to the Signs of Life Patreon page. Paid members get access to Beyond the Horizon, our new series of extended conversations with our guests, as well as several other benefits such as early access to all of his videos, exclusive ambient tutorials, over 100 preset packs for various synthesizers, one-on-one coaching for ambient and electronic music, and tons more. If you'd like to support John Audio and the work he does, head over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. You can also check out his Gumroad page for a selection of free and paid preset packs. Finally, he has a Patreon page where subscribers get access to additional content, such as exclusive music, presets for various synths such as Pigments and Diva, specialized courses, and more. Harmonic Horizons is hosted on Buzzsprout and is now available on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast directories. If you'd like to reach out to us or would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact us at harmonichehorizonspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.